Well, welcome to everybody, friends, family of all the 2012 graduates. And, thank you, 2012, for asking me to impart some sort of wisdom on you. Usually I'm addressing you at weekend activities, which is probably similar wisdom, what to do for the weekend. But when I was first asked to do this, it's funny because those of you who know me, I'm not, necessarily shy from my thing. I got nervous. I was like, oh gosh, I could bone up on this one. So I did some reading about what I'm supposed to do for a baccalaureate speech, and I'm supposed to give you advice. That's what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to try to do it short and sweet, a couple of quick stories. As Laura Ordway said last week, before I even listened to her speech, I thought, I can't stand up there and give advice without a story or something, because that's how I remember it. And so her words just solidified it for me. So I'm going to give you a couple of little quick stories, but first, I know some of you want me to talk about you. You asked me, are you going to say some words about me? Well, I'll give a little quick shout out to advisees, Garen girls golf teams, keep control of junior point weekend activities. Those who made my life easier because they babysat or did barn chores. Extra special shout out to you. Those who I had in class, formal dinner tables, weekend check-in, the list goes on and on. I think I've talked about you all, right? Good. Done? It's my time. That was enough, right, Eliana? Right? Mike just wants me to say how much I'm going to miss him next year. He doesn't realize I've already been to Bridger Bowl, and I love skiing there. I might show up at your dorm after skiing all day. So seriously, a little quick story about me. When I was your age in high school, mothers, listen and don't get offended at all. We had a pretty decent baseball team, and the Blacks boys aren't here tonight. They're playing right now. Hopefully they're doing well, but I figured I'd share a baseball story instead, because we didn't have lacrosse when I was in high school. In the baseball team, we were pretty good. We weren't great. And my senior year, we were playing, this was on Nantucket Island, and we were playing a team, Nauset Regional High School on the Cape, and they were sort of not our arch rivals, because Martha's Vineyard is the arch rival, but Nauset was the really good, solid team. And they had this kid that could hurl, like a Jeff Clark. And we were down 7-0. It's the bottom of the 6th inning. This kid's throwing like a 2-hitter, and nobody's been on base. So I get on base. I end up on third. There were 2 outs, I think. I can't recall, but I was taking a huge lead off of third. Huge, because the kid was pitching from the windup. Have I lost a lot of you? So he's throwing from the windup, and so I take this huge lead. The kid at home plate hits the ball towards the third baseman. I get caught in a pickle, and I end up getting back to third base. But, I'm exhausted, winded, I shouldn't say exhausted. I was winded, but, I'm covered in dirt. I slide in, and my coach yells, "Hedden, quit doing stupid things," or something to that effect. And as he's saying that, this is where it goes bad. I go, "Shut up!" And it was entirely my fault. I should have never ever said that. It was so wrong. My mother was in the crowd. At that point I didn't realize how bad it was. But afterwards, 2 pitches later, by the way, I scored. This kid threw the ball in the dirt, when he did all that. only running the game. I just had to throw it out. But so I made that bad decision by responding that way. And afterwards, I thought, I gotta go apologize. And so the story goes, once I got in the dugout, the coach said, "What were you saying on third?" And I said, "Shut up." And he said, "Well, I want your uniform at the end of the game." And I said, "Okay." And at that point, we were sort of in a race to potentially be at the state tournament. We would have to beat them at home, which wasn't likely if this kid was pitching anyway. But so I let my team down big time. I wasn't an ace player, but I was on the team and I was a starter, and I let them down because I didn't have the self-control when my coach said what he said. And by the way, I think what he said was wrong too. He could have used a little more tact in what he said. And so when I went to apologize, by the way, he was my English teacher. I'm not a level of complexity. So I knew I had to apologize, right? No, I knew it was the right thing to apologize because what I had done was wrong. I first apologized to my mother, but then I went to apologize to my coach the next day. And it was very genuine because I knew I was wrong. But what surprised me was he didn't apologize. He didn't take any fault in the situation. And at that point in time in my life, that's when I realized, as a high school senior, your age, I realized I have as much control in these situations as any other person. It was not right what I did, but it wasn't right what he did. And at that moment, that's when I realized, after I apologized to him, I have more self-control than some other people, and I can exercise it. And so that was one of my biggest epiphanies from that. And the way I like to phrase it, and some of you have heard me say this before, is essentially, be nice to people. I could have responded appropriately by being nice to him, by just sort of laughing it off or not saying anything at all. And he could have, not yelled at me while I was on third base. And I scored the only but so the message there is be nice to people. Just listen to what they say, take it in, and know that you have the control. You don't have to respond to anything. You can take it in, swallow it, and then respond appropriately. I've got one more other quick story. About when I was a student on an Outward Bound course. I think a bunch of people in the class know, and faculty know, that I used to work for Outward Bound, and this was a big time in my life. This was the same time I was a student right after my senior year. Some people asked for new laptops and stuff, and I asked to go backpacking for 14 days in the North Cascades. You can judge me how you want, but that's what I asked for. And so I went to this Outward Bound course in the North Cascades, and there was a woman instructor who was from Austria, and she was 55-ish. I don't know, my judgment of age at that age was maybe suspect. But she was like some Austrian Nordic coach, Alpine, or Nordic coach, Olympic caliber, whatever it was. She was high end, and she could hike faster and harder and longer than anybody I had ever come across. And I had a lot of respect for her, and had she been younger, I might have had a little crush on her. And on this 14-day course, we would go out on solo for 72 hours. And junior point, you do what, 24 hours max, right? This was a 72-hour solo. So I get put out on solo, and there I am. I'm in this giant scree field, and the scree field has these big rocks. And so there I am, set up all my stuff, and I'm sort of 24 hours later, the instructor, and I have blank spots in my speech because I can't remember her name. I think it was Ingrid, but it's a little bit off. That's a little bit. So anyhow, Ingrid comes by. I'll call her. She comes by and she says, "How's it going, Pete?" And I sort of look at her like, well, getting a little antsy, a little bored, kind of want to go do something. And she said to me, "Pete, if you are feeling bored by yourself, imagine what others think about you when you are around them." So, I'm like, I definitely didn't expect that from her. This was a woman, side story. You students of mine, you know the side story. There was another woman on the course, and she said to this woman, she said, "If you would stop talking, you could hike a lot faster." That's how she operated. So anyhow, she says this to me, and I'm going, "Ooh, really? Huh. Okay." And I had 48 more hours by myself. So I decided I would build a rock throne, huge, massive thing, construct, male, build, and I did. And I had a blast with it. And at that, because I was on solo and I had a lot of reflection time, I did think, she's right. Like, don't ever be bored. Why should you ever be bored? You have whatever you have in front of you. Don't be bored. There's no reason to be bored. And I've shared that story with some other people. I've shared it on Junior Points, and Jay Riley sent me an email this spring with a quote from Jules Renard, which I think was probably where Ingrid got it from. And I thought I would share it. It says, "I'm never bored anywhere. Being bored is an insult to oneself." And I thought that is the epitome sort of that story. And it's something that I hope that you live with and take with you. Don't be bored. Go out and do stuff. So that's my second piece is, always have fun. You've heard me say that before. Be nice to people, always have fun. And lastly, don't get hurt. Right? That's the last big one. So if you take away those three things, that would be what I hope to impart wisdom-wise on you. And don't forget, though, some of those things get in the way of others. Like if you have too much fun, sometimes you're not being nice to people. Like when my wife calls and says, "Hey, where are you?" I'm on the 8th hole on my way home. Little time spread out. Make sure you be nice to me. All right. Thank you.